How are we doing? Today is Thursday, the 7th of November 2024, and the time now is about 2:15. And in the background is the park keeper driving one of his motorized vehicle in clearing up the leaves because we are actually in autumn. We're down here in Finsbury Park by the pond, as you can see. The temperature today is around 12 degrees to 15 degrees, I'll say, but it's around 12 degrees. We have a slight wind. The wind is like, I don't know, when you say wind, does it travel? Let's say it's about 5 miles an hour. Can you imagine that? The wind actually, you travel at this speed for 5 miles in an hour. That's pretty good, isn't it? 5 miles in an hour just on wind speed. So just imagine the sailing ships. We're in autumn. Is it autumn all over the world? That is an interesting question. I know in Australia, around Christmas is their hottest time. I think they have a summertime around that. So it's the tilting. Is it the tilting of the earth we get the seasons, or is it where the earth is in relation to the sun? We tend to forget those things. We learn it in basic education about the seasons, the seasons, the months, the years, the days, and different celebrations we have during those years. So once again, today, the 7th of November 2024, time now is about just after 2 p.m. We're down here in Finsbury Park, London, UK, England. The wind chill, the wind is thinged up a bit more, so it's probably about 7 miles an hour now. So there's wind chill. So if it's 12 degrees or so, with the wind chill, it brings it down to about 10. And if you remember last time with my friend Graham, because we were in direct sunlight, the heat generated was enough for us to take our jackets off. But as you can see in the background, you can see some, well, I hope you can see in the background, we got some leaves floating on the pond there, and not too much ducks. Look, there's a few pigeons about, so I'm trying to think whether they're flown off and they'll be coming back, but they're definitely not too many ducks. There is one or two, but usually there's a lot more. So welcome to autumn. So the week before we had the budget from the UK, England. How you doing, my man? Yes, it's only facing one way. It's facing this way.
What are you doing? Podcast?
Yes, it's a podcast.
For what?
For my craziness, the crazy way I see the world.
Okay.
You know, so as you can hear in the background, a friend of mine who.
Can I have that in writing?
Do you want a reference? You going for a job?
Not from you, okay? Can you imagine what you'd say?
It's say all the best things and all the nicest things. You know, I'm talking about jobs. Somebody just lost an election in America, so they are hired. They're hired from the man who loves that show called The Apprentice. He loves to say you're fired, and he's gonna love saying this in his newscast. Kamala Harris, you're fired because the US people did not choose her, and there's great machinations of what caused them to lose the election.
Yeah.
Are you ready to jump straight in? I'm recording.
I'll take your shoes off first and leave.
Well, this is my
I thought we
coat.
were talking about the water.
Oh. In summer we do that. No.
I'm just saying I'm not obliged to say anything unless I'm accompanied by my solicitor, and even then there'll be no comment.
All right. Okay.
We're just discussing who pulled the trump card.
Yes, lovely phrase there. Yes, Graham, come in.
Yep. Well,
I've already done the time, the dates, and the temperature, and the autumn, and the pigeons, and the birds.
yeah. I'm gonna put my phone off.
Yeah, yeah, right. But I've got to give you a little bit of credit, right?
Yeah.
Because in the news, at the
Yeah.
time of the budget, because we missed you last week, right?
Yeah.
But
My friend was over.
Yeah, you got a friend.
Yeah. I got my friend. Yeah. From Wednesday till Monday. So from Bristol.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so something I've got to give you credit for, all right? So we had the budget last week. Was it last week we had the budget?
Last week's budget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so far away. And one person who jumped up and started to scream and shout was Mr. Dyson.
Nice. Ha ha ha. Well, he would, wouldn't he?
And I remember you said to me, right, a month or so ago, you were out walking and you sat down and the security came up to you. In this big open space or wherever it was, you were
Yeah.
telling me. And what does the security say to you?
Oh, something.
About Dyson's property.
Oh yes, right. I was It was near to Bath, and my friends were there. We were looking for the source of the river, of that went through this property,
Yeah.
and we did. But my friend knew it was his property. I didn't, but it's just, you know. And there was like sheep on it, and so we went up to the very source of this, right, of this rivulet. It was the River Frome.
Okay.
Source of Frome, because the Frome goes into the Avon. And we found it, and someone else was there, right? And we sat down to have a picnic just at the very source where it came out, you know, in the spring.
Mm.
And there was a kind of moon buggy came along, security guard, and he says, "No, you can't, but you're not beyond this property. You're this private property. You have to get off." And then I was told about it, and we looked it up. Yeah, Dyson's property. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say his name was Trump. Private property, you got to get off. It belongs to the Mexicans.
Yep. Oh, that's another story.
Anyway, leave you two gentlemen. Have a nice podcast.
Have a nice
Enjoy your
time.
day, yeah.
Thank you.
Bye. See you.
And tune in. You'll be able to hear your voice on when I put it. I'll tell you where to find it. All right. And the biggest loser from the budget happened to be Dyson,
I wonder how.
because he's one of the biggest landowners in the country.
But inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Inheritance,
Yeah.
Oh, good, excellent. Because the man doesn't pay a penny in any sort of taxes at all.
Well, I tell
Not
you,
that he didn't pay much before,
Yeah.
but now he's in Indonesia. After he's pushing the Brexit,
Yeah.
you see,
and then
you
runs
see,
off.
and then runs off, just like many others do as well. Yeah,
Right. So when
hypocrite.
right, so when I heard the broadcasters saying that one of the biggest
And well, of course, just like our friends in America, he was then anti-establishment.
now he is establishment.
No, he was establishment then. He is
Oh.
establishment, anti-establishment, just like them.
Oh, right.
Establishment,
Like Mr. Trump,
like the multimillionaire whose father was a multimillionaire. Yes,
who went bust so many times.
anti-establishment, establishment. Yeah.
And this is what I heard. He went bust so many times. Remember, he owned. I think it was a chain of gambling casino.
So you must be thick if you're a member of the establishment and you go bust.
Right, but
And you must be very nasty because usually people around
Bail you
you will
out?
bail you out.
yeah.
So you must be so horrible that even other ruling class people don't want to bail you out.
But what the business?
Wow.
Yeah. But what the business people was actually saying was that how could you go bust with a casino, right? Because all the casino just rakes in money. That's all it's all about money, right? So how could you go bust? Well, let me tell you a trick about business and probably what Dyson uses, and me knowing about self-employment and business.
Mhm.
As long as you're spending the money on assets for your business, right? Assets for your business. As long as you're spending money for assets of your business, you would always you won't need to pay tax. That's like big companies like Sainsbury's and Tesco's. There's certain years where they make a loss. The reason why they made a loss because they've bought and developed a big property or open in one of these open air out of town.
Mhm.
They bought a piece of
Yeah.
land and they develop it. Now that comes out of their revenue, their own revenue.
Yeah.
So on the years they say they've made a loss, they've actually acquired a big out of town, 12 miles out of town on some lonely little patch of land somewhere. They've developed it and there's a big Tesco's or Sainsbury's or what have you. And part of what they're doing, all right, so it's over there and probably over there as well. So let's say two development or expansion. So that year they would work as a loss, right? And an interesting thing about the supermarkets now, I think it's specifically with Sainsbury's, is when they develop a property, when they build a new property, they actually build housing as well. So under the shops, I've seen under the shops, say like in a town or built up area, if they build a new property or they get a new piece of land they build. So under the shops, so at the bottom is the shops and on top would be accommodation.
Oh.
Double bubble revenue, right?
Oh,
And
yeah. Rent.
and part of the trick is they might say to the local council, we will build, what do you call it? Is it affordable or
Affordable.
to
I know. Yes, with a capital A, affordable. Or
anyway?
very affordable.
All right, so enough of the
Very reasonably affordable
For-
accommodation
for who?
for
Multi-millionaires.
for people, yeah, who can afford the affordability. But might happen to be multi-millionaires, and probably are.
So Graham,
Yeah.
what's in your mind?
I've been very depressed, really. I've had a trouble sleep. I've been really depressed. I think it's a kind of healing time because I called all my colleagues and friends and they're fed up as well. I can't believe the extent at which the arsehole has won. The extent. No, I didn't. Not neck and neck with a bit of
I mean,
argument.
John,
Yes. Yeah, I can't hardly even say the name.
you really suffered.
Ronald McDonald, Trumpstein.
Really? All right. Tell first of all, tell me about how you feel and your friends feel. What is the
Well, just depressed. I mean, there's no rocket science to it. We're just feeling sick. It's a sick feeling.
because the American
The
public,
electorate,
yeah,
including blacks and Latinos and even a couple of women, right? Not that many, but you know, actually fell hook, line, and sinker for it, and they seem to put their bigotry above their political economic interests, and they seem to have lost their values just to be angry. They've just lost everything.
on the contrary. So I've been listening to some political
Okay.
commentators, and they've said Trump has promised that there'll be low prices with the food, low prices with rent, low prices with petrol. So they've listened to that.
Promise. Yeah, but
And
then,
what did they say a promise is? An old saying.
a promise is something that comes out of your mouth and sounds nice.
Oh, do you remember this one? A promise is a comfort to a fool.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Johnson did a lot of promising, didn't he?
Right. And a promise is a comfort
And he
to
promised that he would have some prosecco. You know.
all the time. Right. But
Every day.
one of the reasons we do this podcast is that it's also to revert back to those
Yeah.
old sayings and things that we have actually
Promise.
forgotten.
Yeah.
All these promises, the basic premise
Yeah.
of a promise, it's a comfort to a fool. That's an old saying, and you know that. And you know what? We are forgetting, just like the Trump people, voters, they have forgotten very quickly, right?
Where they've left their underpants, or they've washed them.
and the pain that people has put them through, and
The pain. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, the Puerto Rico floating on garbage. Ha ha ha! Funny joke. And dark-skinned migrants eating cats and dogs. Which when I was a child, I heard about the Chinese eating cats and dogs. So it's a regurgitation.
no. The Chinese didn't eat cats and dogs.
No. This is what the
No, listen.
They call,
They sold it in the restaurants. That's why it was so cheap.
yeah. Well, okay. The thing.
All right, sorry to the Chinese folks, right?
The thing might change, right?
Yeah,
Well, they know where we're coming from, right?
yeah,
It's called irony. We're using irony, yeah? That's the basis of more intellectual humor, right? But actually, right? They had this racist, sexist comedian on who was really nasty, and they were calling the people the people, you know, from Latin America
yeah.
and African background stupid, and they thought, right, we'll vote for Trump because he's a geezer, he's a man, and he's got testicles, and he's got a deep voice, and he's fits into the cowboy dream, and it's like, wow,
He's a man's man.
he's a man's man.
It's a man's
He's
man's
a
world.
man's man.
World.
Yeah, but he's a strange man because he actually looks like a walrus.
Sure, well,
With a
no.
McDonald's walrus
And
walrus burger.
all right, was two things I was going to say. All right, about the cats and dogs. Now he had promised that he's going to bring down inflation. I believe that's a lie, right?
No. What he's going to? I'm listening to on the World Service to
Yeah.
an American economist, right,
Yeah,
from Harvard University, right, an
Yeah.
economist, right,
yeah,
who said the stock market has shot up, right,
yeah,
right, with his promise to drill, baby drill,
Yeah.
drilling and things like
Yeah.
that, and cutting what call in red tape, cutting regulations and that. But in actual fact, they're so stupid because when he imposes the tariff barriers, right, he will cause a major world shock and trade wars, which will increase inflation. But his poor idiotic what's the word?
Cult followers.
Cult followers. No, I love that one. Cult followers, right? And don't forever, whatever you do, don't say that. Don't use the word cult incorrectly. Don't add and change the wording because it might sound something else.
The great leader.
Yes, his cult followers,
Yeah.
right? In Fantasyland, right?
Yeah.
Think that's what, because they think inflation is very bad. It's actually less than in Europe, but and the economy seems to be doing a lot better because they didn't go through Brexit.
All right. So
But you know, none of this matters because he actually didn't really ever talk about the economy until now when he's forced to say something. This is probably the first time he's ever read from a script. All the other times he just did an abuse-a-thon and he said silly things and he was the man's man and he made himself look like a sincere man of the people and down to earth, unlike the establishment, by just sounding like a deranged alcoholic, you know, who's at closing time.
you see, year on year, prices rise. So whether it's Medicare or rent
the
or
person who they're now
food.
criticising for the Democratic defeat, Joe Biden, actually, together with Kamala Harris, helped to bring down medical prices.
It was the Obamacare. Has it really
no,
gone?
Obamacare started it off. Trump has no interest in healthcare whatsoever.
You see these companies.
You probably cut it.
Yeah, you see these companies, year on year, have to make a profit. So year on year,
Unless they're stopped.
yes.
Or you know, however mildly, they're stopped.
Right.
But if they're not stopped, if it's a free-for-all, which they're being promised, right, by Trump, the Trump-Musk campaign, right, they're being promised a free-for-all, complete laissez-faire capitalism, in the way that Milton Friedman would have wanted, and Ronald Reagan tried to get away with until he went too far.
The last.
Milton Friedman and Margaret Thatcher, right, got rid of Keynesianism
Okay,
and
yeah.
introduced monetarism,
Yeah.
which
Free
failed.
market.
It failed everywhere except Chile
Yeah, free
because
market.
it needs to be forced through.
Yeah, free market is a dangerous thing. Okay,
And
back.
that's what will come to America soon. The total free market,
No, it's already
except
there.
for the military.
It's-
That is state.
It's already there. You know, we have a lot of homeless encampment in America,
Yeah.
right?
Unbelievable. I saw that on a YouTube video, and to some sad music, a car going at 5 o'clock in the morning past the encampment after road after road after road, and I'd never seen that before.
So,
Not Hollywood.
so we got. Oh yeah, that's the Skid Row. It actually does exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skid Row. Yeah.
And no, it doesn't exist as a name, Skid Row. There's Skid Rows.
Yes.
Skid Rows.
Yeah, many.
In
Yeah.
fact, and the place called Detroit is
Yeah.
all Skid Row.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Yeah. Now those people will be and the new people who are going to fall out of the system because the interest rate has gone up, right? Over here, and I don't know what the interest rate is in America. Plus, America actually owns their debt.
To China.
No,
Huge debt they owe to China.
yeah,
They
yes.
owe huge debt. So what is a trade war going to do but going to make it worse?
All right. So when I'm saying about prices, the mechanism,
Economic idiocy.
right? So, but every year, approximately around February, March, the government. Oh, the three swans. Anyway, the government stops and they say we have to have a vote on extending the government debt
Yeah.
because in
Strange
order,
American system.
right?
Yeah.
So in order for the Americans,
Yeah.
in order for America to pay their postal worker, their DLVC, the organs of state,
Okay.
right, and probably even the
Yeah.
president and all the
But up till now, it's always been a clash between the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And a trade-off to pay that and a hold-up. Now people think because they've got the majority, they won't be held up. But in fact, now they have the majority, they don't have to pay anything. They don't have to pay anything at all. They don't
in
have
relation to the debt.
They won't have a fight over welfare because they'll say bollocks to welfare. They won't have a fight over Medicare because they'll say bollocks to Medicare. Everything's social, right? All the social funding for libraries and schools and this and that will be, they'll say, well, to hell with you, bollocks. We've got 4 years, and to hell with you. We want free enterprise. That's what Musk meant by freedom.
All right, and if you remember, the economic during lockdown, not only over here, but almost every country in the world stopped. And America, remember, they gave people, what they call it, furlough money. The government gave people furlough money.
Yeah.
That has to be paid back.
Yeah.
Right? Either your taxes will go up. Your taxes will have to go up.
But even though the Republicans will still do it, but they make sure that they'll only tax the poor with VAT.
Yeah.
So they will not tax the rich, and that's what they mean. They mean they're not going to tax the rich.
And what was the first thing that Liz Truss did when she took over in this country? Didn't she give a tax cut to the rich?
To the rich, yes.
And that's what the Conservative done. And the poor. And when Starmer in the first budget, what did he do? What was the first thing he did? The land tax and the inheritance tax.
Which is a good thing. It's because he had to do something. You see, he is a social democrat, right? A right-wing social democrat, right? And unfortunately, that's what we're left with. We're not talking about Jeremy Corbyn. We're not talking about Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ocasio-Cortez. Those people have been subsumed into the Republican Party, right? And in Britain, they've been actually kicked out of the Labour Party. Right, I think the best thing that can happen now is that the Democrat Party actually splits, and that the left wing go their own way and set up a socialist party. Right, for standards like socialist party doesn't have to be run by someone. It doesn't matter who's run by. But the thing is, it's time for them to do that, right? Like the independents want to do in Britain.
I haven't sensed any infighting yet with the Republican.
But
you say Republican Party and stuff. But you sense that there's a right and there's a left.
I don't know.
They might split.
No, this MAGA thing are very right wing. I think they're likely to be even bigger splits because they won't be rational. Remember, it's like the Tory parties were beckoning with the far right. Tory parties were all irrational, and they were taking seven bells out of each other over some stupidity.
And what do you think of the new leader, Kemi?
Oh, Kemi Badenoch.
Did you hear about a tweet that said?
I'm surprised she hasn't said how wonderful Trump is. Just fantastic.
Did you hear about the tweet that said that she is she's promoting white supremacy?
Well, yes. If you're insane, you can actually avoid looking in the mirror.
Well,
you can look in the mirror and see Winston Churchill.
Talking about conservative,
or David Crockett.
Right.
Because maybe she sees David Crockett because it's fashionable now. Or maybe she looks in the mirror and she sees George Washington.
Now talking about extremes.
Who would have had her in manacles, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
And and all those awful things that happened during slavery. And talking about extremes of the Conservative Party, Nigel Farage he has 5 MPs, right? Oh, where's
listen. No, you're gonna love this. I heard this, right? I heard this on the radio. I think it was Times Radio, right? I'd only heard it mentioned once, but what Neanderthal, right? And
Robinson?
No, Neanderthal. What's his name? Is it
50
Lee Anderson.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I call him Neanderthal.
Yeah.
So Lee Anderson,
Yeah.
right, was censured for abusing a security guard in the House of Commons. You don't think he was not? Because as a jumped up jerk, you know,
Yeah.
he doesn't want to be told what to do by anybody, and that's his real self.
Let me guess that.
Now, he would have said a long time ago, a working class security guy would be on their side because they would have been the real people in the House of Commons.
Let me
right?
add-
But actually, when he's in there, right, he's not going to be able to have you know, and having a big inferiority complex. He's not going to have somebody telling him he can't do something.
Let me add a little bit of colour to that.
And this is what's coming to the Republican Party later, when they start abusing each other, as they will do, on petty things, not on big things. They agree on all the big things,
All right.
but remember, there are petty things.
All right. Now,
How long will it be before they start abusing each other?
I'll hold you to that one. But if we look at Mr. Farage,
Yeah.
and there was a saying in the Conservative.
I'd rather not, but you know, because he does look like a frog. But nothing against frogs.
I think
No.
Kemi was in the business earlier on of trying to out Farage.
Out Farage.
Farage.
Yeah, because she wants to always talk about bringing the reform back into the Tory party.
Now she's in charge, right? And Farage has got 5 MPs.
Of their lifeboat.
Yeah,
And Farage is in the other lifeboat.
yeah. So what can you see? Which direction are they headed in? You're talking about squabbles.
Rationally, right, they will probably talk about getting together. But in reality, they can't do that because they all got thin skins, and when one of them abuses the other one, they'll abuse them back.
I heard.
They won't be able to. They don't have such a thing as tolerance and politeness.
All right.
They're not socialised.
All right. Let me get to this point before I forget it.
Abusathon is coming.
Do you remember what I said about when we went to in our election,
Yeah.
which was what, the 5th of July?
Something in summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, July.
It
The
was
5th
fall in a very funny, yeah.
or the 4th of July.
I called
5th.
very quickly, and it was quick, short.
Yeah. Now, I was trying to say to you, the people that voted and didn't get through, right, representing the Conservative, right, and then we have the extremist vote. And I was trying to say to you, I was trying to read what was the motivation behind a lot of the Brexit rhetoric, a lot of the rhetoric about
Well, it was Trump-like, wasn't it?
Right.
It was basically bloody foreigners. We don't want to be told what to do by foreigners, and we want to make Britain great again and go back to the imperial past.
right now this innate feature in people,
Yeah.
right? Remember, it came to a head with the riots. They call it a race riot. Around the beginning, it was in the beginning of August, right? Now that was innately inside of people, right? It never died.
No, but it could have died if the by dialing down the tone. But you know, Braverman, Farage, all these people, right? And Musk on social media and all these other social media lunatics. Or you add them all together, and they call it populism. They are into whipping up anger. That's what we've got. It's called populism. I don't know why, but it's called populism, right? And it's about whipping up anger, using people's small resentments and telling them every day, reminding them every day about their resentments, to the point where they get very, very angry.
Right.
And diverting them from any issues, because even right-wing people can be reasonable sometimes when they have to be, when they're in a. But the thing is with populism, if you remember Braverman, she never gave people a minute, all right? Just like Trump, never gave people a minute to actually calm down their nervous system and their adrenaline glands, right, from anger, to actually discuss about issues. For instance, immigration issues. Yes, there's a huge problem with picking fruit, right, which is an agricultural problem, bad for the economy. There's a huge problem with elderly care. Yep. No, what you need to do is you must never have a rational discussion about these things. You must always shout and scream and shout and scream and abuse, and the foreigner, the small boat, the foreigner, the transgender, the political, and of course the thing is, if I started shouting at you right now, you might be very calm, but after a little while you wouldn't be able to stand it anymore, and you'd shout back, and then I'd shout more, and then you'd shout more, and it would be a complete mess. And the next time you saw me, your heart would stop beating, and you'd be programmed through your adrenaline for another shout up, and the discussions would be out the window.
And you know, there's lots of people are in that state of mind.
Yeah. And the people who'd be watching us would be the kind of people who like the shout up, and not the kind of people that want to hear what we're saying.
Tommy Robinson.
It goes round, and yes.
Tommy Robinson. Do you know where he is now?
Is he joined the Proud Boys?
No, really.
Is he in Mar-a-Lago?
No, really. Do you know where he is?
He's in jail, I guess.
Yeah, he is in jail.
Yeah.
He's doing 12 months.
For making up lies about the Syrian refugee boy. Yeah.
Yes.
Who got on social media, who he made lies about, and said he was attacked a girl in his school.
And he was told not to repeat
Not
it.
to repeat it. Yeah.
And he did. I think it's contempt of court.
But Trump can now wipe away all his criminal charges.
All his sins.
All his sins.
Yeah.
Like Jesus. Because he is religious. He is a man of God. And he'll wipe away his sins.
Yeah, but not yours. You have to serve your sentence.
No, yes.
And how many?
Yes. And these fools, right, who stormed the Capitol, they think he promised to let them out. He's probably forgotten they exist. He's got other things to do. He's now a big man on the world stage. He can strut about. He can meet Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin, Dave Netanyahu. Do you think he's interested in his soldiers that he sent out to fight for him?
So just the same way we had the race riots here in August, right? That's the January the 6th.
They were similar to the January. Very similar.
Right. Now, that's what I was trying to get at, the motivation, right? There's a deep-seated
whipping up hatred, bigotry,
which hasn't gone away, right?
The basis of fascism is hatred. To find a, I could talk about the sociological and economic thing, but basically the emotion, right, of fascism, right, is like hatred, extreme bigotry, and fear fear and hatred,
Right. Now, so this is kind of my prediction.
and a simple dichotomy.
Right.
Simplicity.
This is kind of my prediction.
Mm.
Trump has made them a lot of promises he can't keep. One of the basic functions,
His mistake is now pretending to be a statesman and making promises, Johnson like. When he just kept making people angry, everyone liked the entertainment and the anger and the stuff like that, and it got him over the line. He was putting, and I'm, you know, these this to blame, that to blame, you know, childless Catwoman and blah blah blah. Yeah, now he's actually set a rope for his own back because he's made promises, but he's not studied those. He's not studied the economy. He has just made the promises, and he will be kept to them.
all right. He
He
can't.
won't keep to them.
He can't keep to them.
No, he can't keep them,
Listen.
and he won't.
The basic
He'll
fundamentals.
forget them tomorrow.
Yeah, the basic fundamentals. I keep on saying the government cannot pay the bills.
No, of course not.
The British government can't pay the bills.
No government can.
Neither can the American government because they have to borrow money more and more every year, right?
Because we live in a modern economy.
All right.
It's not the 12th century, right? Well, even then the kings used to borrow money, but we're in a very complicated world economic system. And that's what all these promises about nationalism are a load of nonsense. Because when he meets, when he meets a banker, right,
Yeah.
he won't talk like the way he talks into the lectern or to his crowd.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a talk show host because the economy will say, look, we have a money problem, and you know, and he's his boss.
All right. Okay. You say
This is called the establishment.
you say complicated. I say complex. Complexity is made up of simple parts, and
Okay, yeah.
I would look at it in a
Simple parts.
little bit more simplistic terms. He promised people things are going to get better economically. It will never happen. I'll tell you why. I'll give you an example of what indicates that. One is the debt that keeps on rising, right?
Mhm.
Here's an example. So in the 1960s, one person in a family, there's a man and a woman, and it was 2.2 kids,
Yes.
right? In that family, here in England and in America, that dream family. Remember that? That's where
the nuclear family.
yeah. Remember that thing about soaps, which was the companies in black and white used to advertise during those black and white
Yeah.
shows, right? The ideal family. A man, a woman, and 2 and 3 kids. And remember, you couldn't get promoted in your job in them days, not unless you took the boss home to have a dinner with your wife and kids. You know, darling, the boss is coming because the boss is going to look at you in order to promote you. Do you remember them days?
Yeah.
Right. So in them days, you only needed one wage, and it looked after your wife, the 2 kids, the car, and maybe even a holiday home. But I don't think they started to do that. Today now, how many people needs to work in that family?
Well, I think so.
And how many kids can they have?
Not many. It's expensive. Oh, because if two go out to work, it's expensive.
What were you saying about this modern world? Right? The iPhone,
Well, yes.
the car.
Yeah,
you
but
know-
that's the thing about extreme right-wing ideology. They talk about the past where women stayed at home, but it's not a real world. Even in Giorgia Meloni's Italy, right?
Yeah.
Which is where she wants to attack abortion and women's right and have women staying at home. She doesn't even mean it because really women have the least children in Europe. It's ridiculous, and that's because of the cost of living. So it's all nonsense. So she says it, but she can't actually do it. So she
But
says
people
it.
believe it. But people don't believe their own experiences.
How come that rat was not wearing a red hat? Why didn't that rat try to make Finsbury Park great again?
All right. Before, so I'm leading you to a certain conclusion here.
Yeah.
Right. So eventually now, the MAGA people are going to realize it's not going to happen.
Well, I've just to make myself feel better, right?
Yeah.
Because I watched lot of different videos, TYT and all that. But I wanted to watch some funny ones. Jimmy Kimmel, there was another comedian, right? And it's quite hilarious, right? Jimmy Kimmel, and there was another one. Anyway, they were actually saying similar things, albeit in a funny way.
Really?
That they obviously these people have been promised a lot of things, but
It's
they
not
can't-
going to happen.
It can't happen.
Not only me, not
can't
only,
happen.
yeah, I know. Not only do I realize it,
happen.
but there's other professionals out there also saying the same thing.
It can't happen.
Right? But what will happen now? Let me make a prediction. What will happen now when they realize that it can't happen? Now, the guy.
Listen. He's promised them a kind of nationalist socialism, a socialism in one country, but he's not a socialist. He's a capitalist. So when he says anti-establishment, he's letting them. He doesn't use the word socialism. He's letting them think he's a socialist, and he's going to improve their equalise wealth and improve their lives. But he's not going to improve their lives. He's actually going to allow the swamp, the establishment that he tells is so awful, to actually damage their lives. Their lives will be damaged. Their medical costs will go up, and they'll need to have more money for the medical costs. But he's on the side of the bosses. And the bosses will say, no, we're not going to pay them more. And he's against trade unions. So he's not going to allow them to make trade unions so that they can have more.
So there's real estate.
So in the end, what fascists do, right, when they get complete power, once they've actually got complete power, like the anaconda that's got round the person the third time and pulling the life out of them, is they always end up banning trade unions. And they don't say we're going to ban black trade unions, we're going to ban Latin trade, we're going to ban Islamic trade, we're going to ban. They say we're banning trade unions, right? Right? That's Hitler. That's what they want to do.
So that would be the first stage.
And it's within the capitalist system. It's not. The capitalists don't mind having trade unions back. It's very cheap for them to do that.
All right. So that mob on the 6th.
He's not going to. Well, Trump or Farage or Tommy Robinson or any of these people, right? Viktor Orban or any of these people or Suella Braverman, all these people, would they turn round, right, and say we're gonna ban trade unions, so you won't be able to have collective bargaining, and you'll have to just work and work and work. You'll have to work.
Didn't we have something like that? We could only have 6 people on a protest.
They did its restrictions, but will they turn round and say that is our dream? That's what our populism leads to.
That's what they were leading to.
I'm glad now that we've rounded up the migrants, right, and deported them. Now we're going to stop you from going on strike, so that you have to work for us, right? And the next thing is we're going to ban the press, right? And we're going to ban any criticism of what we're doing, so you won't have any outlet. You will work. You will keep your mouth shut. You will not criticize, right? All that press freedom we were talking about, we didn't mean a word of it. We're going to stop you from criticizing in any way possible.
I thought I was the
Feudalism.
I thought I was the dystopian one out of me and you.
Well, you can have dystopia. We could be dystopian.
We could share it. Dystopia. Dystopian.
Dystopianism. Well, that's what their dream is about. That's what it's about.
All right, let me still follow.
What else is it about? Now, listen, right. Elon Musk, right,
Mm.
says he wants free speech for abuse and things like that, to abuse people, right? But when he goes to China, does he fight the Chinese government and say, look, we're going to say what we want? Or
No,
does
he doesn't. He just follows-
He wants money, so he
wants-
kills them.
yeah.
Right, and when there are things that he doesn't want to hear,
Mm.
right, that are anti-MAGA or anti-Republican, does he allow people to just say that?
No, he
No,
wouldn't.
no. So therefore, right, they're hiding, just like Tommy Robinson, they're hiding their ultimate aims. They're saying, look, we hate people being persecuted for our journalism. But in the end, their journalists will be, they'll be first of all, they'll be
Silenced.
fired,
Yeah.
right? Silenced,
Mm.
right? They'll be asked to stop, right? And keep more and more and more, right? Like in Hungary with the Orban, right? Or in Poland early with the earlier government, right? And it's also more and more and more and more, like with Putin, more and more and more and more. And then, right? Then they'll go further and further, and they'll actually start locking them up and closing down the offices of any independent journals.
Like they do in Israel.
And even if they're right-wing journals, they'll close them down.
Yeah.
Like in Israel, every time we hear, right, the BBC, Radio 4, the World, so anything like that, when they always say, right, they always say, we can't go into the Gaza Strip, we're not allowed in there. They've just closed down Al Jazeera. They
Yeah.
just closed it down.
And they've taken Al Jazeera.
And they call
off.
themselves a democracy. They say we're the only democracy in the Middle East. But they've just closed down Al Jazeera.
Yeah. And yeah, like over here they've taken Al Jazeera
Al Jazeera.
off
Yeah.
the airways. I
Yeah.
can't get it on
And
my
when
thing.
we went on a huge demonstration of 100,000 people last Saturday, right, it wasn't mentioned. Now on Sunday, what was mentioned, right, I and my friend, right, were listening, right, Sunday evening, a pollution protest was mentioned, and which is a great thing, brilliant, right, a pollution water, but it was much smaller and it was less significant. But the most important thing, 100,000 people, it's enormous.
So
Censored.
it's-
So
it's
you,
already happening.
it's happening. It's happening.
So this dystopian world you're talking about
It's happening.
yeah,
It's happening.
it's here already.
So, and who knows that there were these number of people there complaining about the genocide, and many of the speakers were talking about what they saw on social media: people burnt to death, children who are bleeding in hospital. These people don't know that it's been knocked out of the media. They don't hear it. So there's a lot of people that would be horrified at that, but they don't know it's happening. Now in America, maybe they don't know it. They also don't know about it.
They don't.
So they don't know about it.
And I realize some Israelis don't even know about it either. They believe in this complete fantasy world
Fantasy, yeah.
that's been given to them. But before we move
Yeah.
on to Israel, let me finish.
Well, today, Beirut has been bombed.
I heard.
It's becoming like carpet bombing. Beirut, the capital of independent Lebanon.
Yeah. Before we move into that, let me finish the.
Or are they independent?
Yeah.
Or are they just another colony like the West Bank?
All right, don't forget, we'll bring that
Okay.
back up in the conversation. Back to the Donald Trump. When the people realize that he can't deliver, the 6th of January, that crowd, that motivation,
They're the people that he'll use against the people that protest. It will be like, you remember a film called Clockwork Orange?
yeah,
That's what he's planning, a kind of Clockwork Orange.
all right. Okay.
Those people's like anti-establishment anger turn into a pro-establishment anger. So the Proud Boys are now put into the militia, the MAGA militia, that are working, and any ordinary police or who say no, we don't want to break the Constitution, will be voted out and replaced by the MAGA militia. who will be able to break into people's houses and do extrajudicial things.
All right. Okay.
The MAGA militia.
I didn't quite see it that way.
And first they dress up like looking like they look like like they come out of some festival with horns and things like that. But once, like in Clockwork Orange, once they get in and they dress up with their red hat and red berets and like Trump uniform. When they got the Trump uniform on, right, and they get paid by the state. They get paid by the establishment pays them.
Yeah.
They're going to be a disciplined force.
Well,
They
that-
might be called the Trumps. They might be called the MAGA People's Militia because they love these words, don't they? But
Yeah.
they'll be against the people.
That's the real
They'll be for the rulers.
All right. So supposing, do you know the guy who shut off Trump's air? Yeah.
I've never met him.
All right. So so that was one guy. There was another guy who.
They were all MAGA people, funny enough. That's the reason they got that there. They were all MAGA people.
So if we had a MAGA leader who has realized he's been lied to, and he turns around to the MAGA militia and says, "Our great leader has lied to us."
Well, these are called, in social science, this is called unintended consequences because they're not intended.
Well, I can see it happening.
Listen, things happen which are not intended.
Supposing we had a whole militia with a whole heap of guns going for Trump. Because they're now pissed off. Because
No.
remember, the two people trying to kill him were pissed off.
But this,
They're
yes,
going to be more pissed off now, right? When they find out.
but he's a loose cannon. The thing is that what's strange about him is he isn't. He's going to. He's definitely going to piss off people who are on his side.
The militias are loose cannons.
Of course they're loose. They're loose cannons, and yes,
He's a looser cannon.
he's a looser cannon.
And you can see what's going to happen with all these cannons. They're going to start firing off against each
Well,
other.
he's against guardrails, and when he's taking away the guardrails, anything can happen. If you want to walk over a bridge and you take away the guardrails, you could fall in.
Well, that.
He says he's against safety. He wants chaos. So chaos is chaos.
Let chaos reign.
Let chaos reign. It's a horrible thing. Chaos. This is awful.
And how do you think?
Doesn't believe in state and planning. Doesn't believe in regulation, and doesn't even believe in regulating his language.
Yeah.
It's chaos.
Let chaos reign.
Remember, there was a very right wing guy with a Hispanic name, right? Who in the first election he told him that his wife was ugly. Ted Kruger, I think it was Ted Kruger, and he said, "I'll get you."
There's a lot of people he's out to get.
Right? He said, "I'll get you," right? And for attacking my wife. Now, the man thinks he's wonderful,
Yeah.
right? But in the back of his head, he thinks, "You've insulted my wife." Right? But he says he's wonderful. So as long as his star is going up, but when he starts coming down, he goes, "Right, I'm going to give you. You're on the floor now. I'll give you a boot."
Yeah.
Right? And I'm able to get away with it because here's the glass. Well, I mean, no one gets it for me. I'll go and get them. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, I get away with crimes, right? And I can exonerate myself.
Yeah.
I am a goddamn superior.
Well, if you take away rules, you get that.
A complete nutcase.
No, yeah,
Have you listened to any of Trump's speeches?
I can't believe it. That's what's making me sick about how he's voted for. Because he says it open, people have heard it, right? I'm going to be a dictator from day one.
Okay, he says that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say anything coherently.
No, clear enough.
There's no articulation.
Well, the American Psychiatric Association say he has a narcissistic personality disorder. Look, you know that the MAGA media,
Okay.
right, turned it round and said, "Oh, they're these well-educated sort of upper-class establishment Democrats are looking down their noses at poor white workers and that, right? But they turned it around. But actually, the thing is that the man actually, right, said he actually was, has the sign of abuse that they wouldn't have. However, they wouldn't abuse each other like that. They wouldn't do it. They'd call it rude.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
he wouldn't allow that. But what if, right? What if you get a sort of redneck from Alabama or something like that, right? And then you were to say in front of his wife, right, and wife and daughter, that you think women should be grabbed by the pussy. Well, he'd want to punch you in the nose. He wouldn't like that. You're disgusting. Get out of here. Get out of here before I beat you up, right? This is my wife. Yet he said it. They think he's great for saying that. Oh, he's anti-establishment. He can say that.
Wow.
That's why I'm so depressed, my friends. We can't understand it, right? Now the African American men,
Yeah.
right, the macho men, African American and Latin macho men,
voted
right, who voted for him, right? It was only about a year ago when he made a joke about Latin American and African countries being shitholes. Oh right, you call me a shithole. I want you to be president because you call me a shithole. I'm a masochist. You're a sadist. Thank you very much. Please kick my other bum cheek.
And not to mention the barge
What?
full of rubbish called.
Barge full of rubbish called Puerto Rico. That's a funny. And a few days afterwards,
They've over.
massive majority.
They're over.
Look, I can't get over that. And I really, like, lots of people, right, can't get over it. I just can't get over it. I just cannot get over it. What if Keir Starmer said to people?
Well, Boris Johnson would.
No, and did, and got away with it. But no, he didn't go as far. But he went quite far.
He said about letterboxes.
Oh,
and,
letterboxes, no. Yeah.
A watermelon smile and which I hear what you say, but all right. Let's
Watermelon smile. Oh yeah, watermelon smile. Yes, he did say similar things, didn't
Right.
he? And he said about Obama when he was saying that Britain would be at the back of the queue if they left the EU, and he said I'm not taking any lectures from a half caste from Kenya or something. This is like yeah. So he did. It's just horrible.
listen. I'll give you a week to collect up your thoughts again, and see how things has moved on.
So how did Kemi Badenoch manage to stand that?
Oh yeah. Oh, you mean
She must have thought it's wonderful.
she? What was the words used in the tweet? She's a surrogate for the white supremacists. Something.
A surrogate? You mean she's born from IVF or something?
Must be. You said, how could she stand that?
Or just a test tube, like Frankenstein.
Well, that is a good conclusion because you said, how could she stand that? So,
Yeah.
so how could she? She's not from what normal people who are associated with their culture.
There was a
react.
Tory woman,
Mm.
right, Asian Muslim woman called Baroness Farsi, and she was so disgusted she couldn't stand the Islamophobia of the Tory party, and she left. This is called honour and decency.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And she wasn't rude about it. She didn't rant and everything. She just left, and she said, "I can't stand this anymore. I've tried to put up with it. I shared the values, but this is too much." Right. So how does Braverman and Badenoch and Kwasi Kwarteng and all these people, how do they just get spat in the face and wipe it off and say thank you very much? Thank you very much, Master. Thank you very much, Walla.
And that's
How can they do that?
well, they do.
No, thank you very much.
And
Thank
they
you very
do.
much. Please,
Do-
get Rishi Sunak. right? Rishi Sunak, right? Wipe Boris Johnson spit off his face and says, well, yes, of course you're entitled to do that. Yes, and I'm entitled to wipe it off. Thank you. How much money, right, is it worth to lose all your dignity like that?
They have no dignity. It's part of their
Is there
DNA.
dignity in the bank?
There's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. The bank.
Bank
Bank
dignity.
dignity. It's got zeros. Is it got a lot of zeros at the end?
So next time we're here, we're gonna hear your extra thinking on the Conservative Party and your extra thinking on how they managed to vote for Trump. But let's move on to the two world wars.
I really love the uneducated.
And
Especially them.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially them. It's just,
Do you know the funny thing about the uneducated? One of my catchphrases here in these podcasts is that you have to uneducate yourself,
only.
right? Because did you hear about the royal family and the money they earn from the land they have and the
Yes,
property?
I did, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I did, yeah. And it's a report brought out in I think the Times of the Observer not long ago. Yeah. And they said it very quickly, and it's when it was, I think it was last week or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Lots of money.
where's people bowing down to them?
Bowing and scraping.
Right. Yeah. They've been royally screwed. But remember that thing I said about in medieval times when they used to run to the church, when the landlords and used to come and chase them off the land and do you know we getting back to those times.
That's probably the basis of fox hunting, really. What they've done with people.
Do you remember the lords of the land then? Your daughter, they could have first go at your daughter. Remember? Did you remember those times? Do you remember that?
No, I
they
didn't
would
know that.
they-
But it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, they could go through the village and choose any woman and have.
Oh yeah, well, power, total power. That's absolutism, isn't it?
Yeah, but
That's
isn't that what Trump is doing?
Yes, he that's what he absolutism.
Right.
He's absolute.
So back to this thing about uneducate yourself. Even though you have the highest level of education.
Well, I'm really the thing is right. The thing is, it is possible to be. There's a kind of brainwash education, right? That's different from education, because when Bob Marley was talking about brainwash education to make us a fool, he wasn't talking about education in general.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, because look in the university I did a black diasporic theory, right?
Yeah.
With Barnard Hayes, and it was quite rare. And I found out about slavery.
Yeah.
Right, the slave revolts and everything, and I was lucky to have done it. Right,
Okay.
so that was in a formal educational setting.
Yeah.
No, but there weren't many people who did it who chose that subject. Many people wanted straight subjects.
Okay. So what I'm talking about, to be a bit more specific, is about the systems that we are educated either indirectly or directly, even from our parents or peers or society. Okay, so one of them would be in relation to how you treat the royal family. Oh, like I was saying, in medieval time,
And especially the male members, because the female members weren't thought much of. The female members of the royal family were only thought of as vessels to have
children,
male children.
yes,
Male children,
And
the male heir,
and in some places that's still,
the male heir.
yeah, in some places that's still in place. All right, so the people used to run from the lords who were collecting rent and collecting the animals and whatever to the church.
They're called teeths.
All right,
Teeths they were called.
right.
Taxes for the church were called teeths. Yeah,
Oh, all right.
in
But-
the medieval era.
But not for the church, but for the king.
for the king, yeah.
right? But they used to run to the church.
But yeah, but I think the church, the
But
king and the nobility were very closely tied.
Yeah,
and
that-
I think what they shared the money out between themselves.
That is that
I think the most of it was taken by the king, and then the nobility. What was left was divided up between the nobility and the church.
that's my very point. So they ran from
Yeah.
they ran from the king's men trying to collect tax to the churches, but it's all part of the same system, right? But remember that
That's why the first thing that happened with the first French Revolution is confiscating the church's lands, and in the Reformation,
yeah.
which led to another revolution, but which was 1770 or something, was was the compensation was given to the church for having the land taken away.
And back to today now. So
the book I'm reading at the moment about from modern French history, yeah.
okay, so back to today now. So one thing I heard was that these charities, right, which the royal family praises and weird thing, the charity building has to pay rent to the crown.
Yeah.
Just the same way that Britain and America supplies guns and bombs to Israel,
Yeah.
but also supplies aid to the people of Gaza, to the Palestinians.
Yeah. Well, that.
How do you square that circle?
Look, Trump will square that circle by giving more arms, and no aid at all. Yeah. No aid at all. He'll say, if you want to kill them all, do it. It's great. I don't like them anyway.
And so
Yeah. He'll say, great, carry on.
So look, as far as I see, this Israel, look, this war is going to go on for another.
If you remember the Muslim ban, you can see what's coming. He did that on a whim.
Yeah, this war is going to go on for 100 years, right? Because Israel is only been around for around 70 years at the moment.
Now that Trump's in, you're probably right. You probably will. Yeah. Well, the thing is, 100 years. I don't know if there'll be any Arabs in the West Bank left or Gaza left. So I don't think it will. With the kind of bombing and the starvation and the illness, I don't think it'll probably take that long to kill everybody off.
Huh?
Maybe. I think within 5 years of non-stop war, I think they could clear out all the areas they want to clear out and resettle them with Zionist colonists.
Israel's been.
I think they could clear out the West Bank and Gaza and southern Lebanon and resettle.
As far as
like happened in America, Canada, and Australia.
That happened.
Yeah.
How old is America? Actually, how old is America?
Well, it's very old because
No.
70.
No,
well,
no.
Before Columbus.
What was it? No.
Yeah.
No.
Are you talking about the European discovery of
not then.
America? Are you talking about
When the Pilgrims left
Hmm.
and they went to America, was that 16 something?
yes, 16,
16, 17,
something like that, yeah.
18,
Yeah.
19,
Yeah.
20,
Yeah.
about 400 years.
But there were people living there before the Pilgrims
I
went
know.
there. So that's yeah. But you see, there was the brainwashing. You talk about like you talk about the miseducation. This is part of the miseducation.
You're right.
When did America begin? Well, I think okay. Geographically, it probably began at when the Earth was formed. But socially, right? Socially, if you're talking about people,
Yeah.
I think I don't know who was living there, but I'm sure there were tribes and other groups living there before. but the majority of the Native Americans that we know now came across from Mongolia over the Bering Straits and colonized it and created the Cherokee, the Cree, the Incas, the Mayas, the Mapuche, etc., etc.
You know,
But there may have been even someone before them.
was it
Well, we don't know
there,
about
there
that.
are some invaders, right? When they invade a country, they destroy all their books, they destroy all their culture, and within a certain amount of generation,
Cultural genocide.
right? So within a certain amount of generations, you've forgotten,
Yes, of course.
and I think
Of course.
you see, look, the Romans, right? The Romans came here,
Mhm.
right?
And what did they ever give to us, eh? Apart from roads and baths and
But have we?
aqueducts,
But have we?
laws.
But have we forgotten what the Roman did around the world?
They were very brutal. Very brutal.
Have we forgotten? All right. In let's say not 18th century, but 1901, when we had the First World War, have we forgotten what those? Aren't we still celebrate? No, we celebrate in the Second World War.
Well, it wasn't. Armistice Day wasn't long ago. What?
No,
Why would you?
it's
Why?
yeah. Ah,
Why would you? Why
comes
would
on.
you?
Yeah,
Why would you celebrate the murder of working class Europeans by the wealthy
the
for
cenotaph.
profit?
The day of the cenotaph is actually the Sunday, right? Where all the heads of the Commonwealth.
Well, it's because the Sunday's a church day, isn't it? But that's
Right.
the day. If it was in Israel,
Right.
it might be on a Saturday, and if it was in Egypt, it might be on a Friday.
And at the cenotaph, we commemorate what? The First World War?
It's somehow conflated with the Second World War, isn't it? In an imperial way. They're concertinaed together, aren't they?
All right. So how long?
And the average sort of patriotic sort of bigot, right? You know, the Daily Mail Sun reader they'd be mentioning First World War and Second World War together.
All right. So how?
Like Passchendaele and they remember Dunkirk. They concertina them together.
All right. So how long ago was the Second World War? Let's say 1945, right?
40, yeah.
45 from 100 is how much?
55.
Right. 55 plus 25.
55, 60, 75? 75 years. It's coming on to 100 now. It's coming towards it.
All right.
75. It's a long time ago.
So we're still commemorating the Second World War, and the First World War was when?
What?
It's 1915, isn't it?
No, they finished in 1916.
All right, 1915 to now. 15 from 100 is how much?
15 from 100, what, 85,
85 plus 25.
85, 90, 100, 110.
So the First World War was 110 years.
Mhm.
Yes. So, as you were saying, okay, you see
Yeah.
me line up there. It's going to go off in a second.
Well, Patrick, right? I was depressed. And I still am depressed, right? It's quite awful, let down. But at the same time, you've added some logic, right? By saying, of course, Trump's made all these promises, and just like Johnson, he can't keep them.
All right, let's finish off the conversation.
Yeah. So therefore,
Yeah.
right. His popularity won't be that long, although his reign will be long because he's there for 4 years. But his popularity might not be all that long.
Okay, so you can see it.
Because, and also remember, if, you know, the people who he'll let down, that most worship him at the moment, right? When they have that come down, you know, like a come down from heroin, when they come down, and go cold turkey, right? You know, and from their worship of him, and realise that he's not properly worshipped,
Mm.
and that feel con, and they'll also start remembering the other things. And it won't be just him. I mean, they'll realise that it is the whole establishment, and that he's just another part of the establishment, and that they might start looking for a real alternative.
I tell you where I've got to do a little bit of study is we still don't know the motivation behind. Well, I mean, did they shoot the guy to death? The one that was on the roof that took off his ears?
Yeah.
They shot him. So we don't. But they haven't figured out his motivation.
Well, they're just going to keep quiet about it. They're not going to tell us there's motivation, are they? It doesn't sound good, does it? Why would they do
Alright.
that?
And the guy they arrested, who was trying to shoot him on the golf course.
You see, he wasn't a foreigner. You see, it's embarrassing,
Yeah.
right? He's not a foreigner,
But
right?
what I'm trying to say, that is the seed.
You know,
Right.
if he's a foreigner, they'll
Yeah.
look for the motivation.
Right.
But he's not a foreigner out and other. He's it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but him and the guy who trying to shoot Trump through the hedge, that's a tip of an iceberg, right? That under it, there's loads of people that feel like that,
Yes, yeah,
and it's going to be
and it'll
accelerated.
be so. Yeah, exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right now,
It'll be
he's
accelerated.
actually now he's
It'll
got
be
a set.
accelerated.
Why did he want to shoot Trump
And
in the first place?
and the more
Because
notices-
Trump was not in power.
No.
No, he wasn't in power. He was canvassing
He's not in power,
to
yeah.
be in power.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah,
But that person didn't want him
No,
to be in
I see
power.
what you mean. It's very fascinating. I didn't think about what you just said. I'm going to think about it, and I'm going to ask other people about it because it's a question. I never thought of that before. It's fascinating what you just said. It's really given me food for thought.
Because he wasn't in
It's a
power.
question. I'm
Right.
going to ask other people.
He was going to apply, he was canvassing to be in power, but this person did not want him to be in power, or he had some grievance of something he did when he was in power. But not only him,
Yes.
but the other guy as well,
Yeah.
who tried to shoot him on the golf course.
Yeah, but we know that, in everyday life, right? To come down from the big scale to a small scale, which is more understandable, we know that people who are troublemakers get a lot of enemies, and people who are, pleasant. Get few enemies. They do get enemies, but they don't get that many, and they don't build up such vitriol. But people who are constantly causing trouble get lots of enemies. So we know that he has created lots of enemies, and we know he'd carry on creating even more enemies.
It never happened to Obama, which you would think would.
Well,
It never happened to Clinton.
He's not behind glass,
Right. It never happened to the Bushes, Senior and Bobber Jr. Right? Oh, if I go back to the 100 Years War, which I should have as welcome back to the brink,
Yeah.
right? Oh, so the First World War is 100 and something. Like I was saying before, we got cut off.
Well, it's funny. Can you imagine if Braverman, right, was the Prime Minister, right? She would end up in a similar situation because of the amount of abuse she'd carry on and abusing. She'd have that same kind of mania where she has to insult somebody new every 2 days, and she'd actually end up hated.
Yeah,
It really is. It really is quite human nature. Isn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh,
Yeah.
all right. It's a great
The
thing.
more people you abuse,
Yeah.
the more people hate you.
All right, but the let me just go back to the 100 years, and I'll come back to that. So it's 115 years, and we're still commemorating the First World War.
Yeah.
It's about 80 years, 75 years that we commemorate in the Second World War, right? We haven't forgotten.
And in the Ulster, they commemorate the Battle of the Boyne, which happened in the 1550s or something. I think that's probably finished now. I think they've had enough of that. But That's can you see how ridiculous it was?
No. When I say the war,
A Dutch king from
no. When I say
brought an Irish army
no, it's not ridiculous.
over to Ireland.
When I say this war in the Middle East is going to be for 100 years, right? You've forgotten, right? 9/11, Twin Towers.
Never heard much talked about anymore.
You've forgotten, right?
Oh, yeah.
Some people say America's foreign policy.
Mhm.
And how many years ago was that? That was about 10.
It wasn't long, was it?
No, it's about 2001.
Yes, it's
About
yes.
20.
20, yeah, 20.
No, probably. Yeah.
About 20 years ago. It wasn't long ago.
Right. Have you forgotten about the Iraq War?
No, definitely not. It's terrible. We've still got the consequences now.
Have you forgotten about Afghanistan?
No, definitely not, because that's the outcome is the Taliban, the mess, and the hunger and everything. Yeah,
Have you forgotten about Vietnam?
yes, I have. That was really awful, and I'm sorry to say I've forgotten about it.
And there's remember the Korean War, which is never talked about these
No,
days.
actually, one of the reasons this is now there's no way that I'm going to like be in any way supportive of the terrible dictatorship of Kim Jong-un, but there is a lot of hatred towards America, not just by Kim Jong-un, but amongst ordinary people, especially the elderly, because during the Korean War, the U.S. Air Force, right, killed so many people in bombing. They call it carpet bombing, like they did in Vietnam, like Israel was doing, but worse, because they got more planes. Carpet bombing was the speciality of the US Air Force, and it's terrible what they did. And so the animosity is really bitter. In fact, what stopped that massacre from happening was the Chinese army. That's so they stepped in and they pushed them back, and they created that, right? That created that animosity. And having said that, in no way am I like supporting this terrible dictatorship. But the animosity has been created, and the animosity in Iran has been created, right? Even by even nationalists and secularists who are anti the Islamic don't feel bitter towards the West because of the murder of Mohammed Mossadegh, who actually was democratically elected and wanted to nationalize the oil fields. And then, in fact, really, what the West has done in many parts of the world has left a legacy of bitterness, recrimination, division, hunger, and climate destruction that actually is still responsible for the migrations.
And there's
But the legacy of those times are horrendous. The massacre of the Kenyan farmers.
yes,
terrible.
Still gone to court.
And the repercussions of that, and that's what a lot of the Caribbean leaders said, right, when they were talking to Stom about reparations. They were saying the legacy of slavery is still continuing.
And that's
It
400,
isn't- it's
and
so-
that's 400 years.
Yes, of course.
Right, so this war.
Well, Walter Rodney wrote a book. I've read it, but I've forgotten it now. But a long time ago, I read that, called the what was it? The depopulation of Africa. That actually Africa became poorer because a lot of the skilled artisans, especially metal workers, were taken away from West Africa and deposited elsewhere. So the slavery not only impoverished the West Indies where it was taken to, but Africa where they were taken from.
Yeah. All right.
So many places were damaged at one time
So 2 points.
within 50 years.
Right. So 2 points, and then we're
Or
gonna
100
conclude,
years, maybe.
because we're actually gonna run out of
Yeah.
video space.
Mm.
Right. So the first one was the 100 years. This war is going to be, and one of the reasons is is that each one of us have got modern technology. We can almost in real time see actually what's happening, or even a fraction of a second later or a few seconds later, because of people like Elon Musk, right? And we got to be aware he'll be controlling the future, right? If you don't want to see something, then all the signals from that area will be blocked. But mind you, there's about 3 or 4 ways you can get.
I can see that. I can see him doing that now.
All right, but mind you, there's 3 or 4 ways you can actually still get that. It can still come through. But anyway, so the point being, why it's going to last 100 years and it's going to be more salient and more powerful. Even during 9/11, right? We never had the technology that we had today, right? Nobody had a mobile phone to record,
Oh, yeah.
right? It just happened that was a live camera happened to be there. But the funny thing is, how did they know to have a live camera there? No, I think they was there because of the first tower, and then the second one went into it. But anyway, right? So because of technology,
And
right?
the Pentagon.
Yeah, and the Pentagon. Right. So when you kill a person, you kill their parents, right? How?
Well, people all over the Arab world, right, have seen on Al Jazeera children who are being burnt alive by bombing. They're going to be so.
How long would that hurt last?
horrified.
How long would that hurt last? Forever.
Forever.
And what about
Forever. Yeah,
what about the
forever.
children?
Forever. Yeah.
You're right.
Okay,
They'll
yeah.
pass it on, right?
And they'll pass it.
And because of the technology.
Yes, and because it'll be there, right, forever.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the final subject. Do you remember do you remember those people who protested on the 4th of August? Because there were false rumors that it was a terrorist. And what did it turn out to be?
Oh, a madman.
It turned out to be a terrorist. But that still does not
No, they said he had terrorist manuals. He could have been a madman that has terrorist manuals.
Listen. Here's my point. Whether he was a terrorist or not, whether he
was terrorist or not, doesn't matter.
right, you can't go down.
No,
you
of course
can't go and burn.
No, of course that was planned. Well, there were all sorts of things.
Actually, wait a minute. What's terrorism got to do with going and burn down a hostel
And the library.
and the library? What's that all about?
And a hostel and a library.
And the migrants. What's that got to do with migrants?
This is called a pogrom. Now, throughout history, you've got the mob, right, taking out pogroms. In medieval Russia,
Yeah.
under the Tsars, right, often they would have rumor about Jewish people, and Jewish villages would be burnt to the ground by Russian peasant mobs. Would massacre them, and all around the world there've been the pogroms.
Wow.
Pogrom is a Russian word, right? It means whipping somebody up. There's been pogroms, Hindu Muslim pogroms in India, especially after independence.
Wow.
They were massacring each villages, right? In fact, Modi seems to be somewhat responsible for some of the pogroms that happened in Rajasthan when he was the mayor.
Wow.
Pogroms, right? They're terrible things, right? And they last into the modern day.
So
In fact, that January the 6th thing could have been a kind of pogrom, in a way. When they said hang Mike Payne, is it any different from if you're watching The Life of Brian or watching some like Ivanhoe, right? And you see the peasants being stirred up, being told, these people want to kill King John. We must protect King John. Yes, come on, men, pick up knives and sticks and things, and let's attack this village who want to destroy King John.
So it's as simple as that.
It's as simple as that.
Not complicated.
No, it's uncomplicated.
And on that note, it's good night from him.
And I wouldn't say good night, because after the US election, I don't feel, and a lot of my friends don't want to sleep very well. But we're going to try. So please try to have a good night.